Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast. I am George Armistead, and I am here with Alvaro Jaramillo. Alvaro, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going, George? Fall sparrows are coming back. First backyard golden crowned sparrows, the migrant white crowned sparrows like Gamble's, Puget Sounds, ruby crowned ruby crowned kinglet, which is a real sign of the second stage of fall for us. You know, like we get the first stage is yellow warblers and a bunch of things, and then eventually you move into that kinglet and yellow rump stage.
Yes.
Yellow rumps I have not seen yet, but we're right in that cusp, you know, from the earlier migrants to the later migrants, and exactly that later migrant push. That's when the sparrows, who are a little hardier, get down here. You know, so
Sparrow
that's all
season.
going on. Oh boy.
Yes. Yeah, sparrow season. I rub my hands together. Yes, sparrow season.
Sparrows.
Yes, it's a fine time of year. Yeah. Edge habitat and meadows, that's, you know, cold days, gray skies, that's where it's at for me. I love it. But yeah, it's sort of similar here. The big warbler push seems to be mostly done, but yeah, it's like it's getting chilly. People are like, man, like summer just like went later. It's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, you know, it seems like you get these like lingering summers sometimes. That does not seem to be the case. I had my first junco the other day, my first purple finch. These are things usually reserved for a little bit later, you know, kind of early mid-October. But yeah,
it is so funny, you know, the east-west stuff. You know, I was just thinking, purple finch for me is like a summer bird. And juncos breed here, you know, so they're here all year round. And I was thinking though too, the yellow warblers go in thick here right through, you know, to late September. But I think we mentioned this before, perhaps like in the early podcasts, that, you know, eastern yellow warblers way earlier than western ones. What's going on? They're all yellow warblers. Why are they late here, early there?
Yeah. Bizarre. Interesting.
I know.
Definitely it's a grad student that needs to do some digging there, maybe a couple.
Yeah. Or somebody just needs to look at eBird data and figure it out. I mean, it's all in there.
Yeah, well, that'd probably be a faster way to answer this question, yeah.
Yeah, but you guys, so you guys are seeing the chill. You're getting that, you know, head to the raptor observation places kind of.
Yeah, hawk watches are, dude, it's been broad-winged hawk show last like week and a half or so, been off the charts. My buddy Liam, who's like, his place is just, I don't know, maybe a mile as the broad-winged flies on the other side of this big creek that we have that kind of divides Northwest Philly. And he had over 2,000 broadwings go over his place, which by Philadelphia standards, I think is pretty much unheard of. It seems like a lot of the coastal sites are having particularly high numbers of broadwings, but there's been some pretty impressive counts. I haven't had any really good flights here at my house. I've been focused more on morning songbird flight, which has been actually deeply satisfying. But I have had a few broadwing flocks go over here and there, just like a couple dozen here and there. But I mean, some of these places get some of the hawk watches, you know, getting thousands of broadwing hawks steaming through. Pretty dramatic to see that.
Yeah, you wonder if a great year for broadwings means just that the conditions are good to concentrate them in a visible place, or is it mean there's just a lot more broadwings this year because they had a great breeding year, or both? You know?
Yeah, I was gonna say could be both. Yeah, I mean, I know that the ones Liam were seeing were like he was using a scope and he was picking them out. Like we're talking about clear blue skies, so he's picking out birds way up high. And he's just like looking for little streams of them coming out of thermals,
Yeah.
Mm.
That's cool. I feel like I missed, understanding how lucky I was growing up in Toronto, where we had a lot of hawks flying over, even over university, or even near my neighborhood. We just would see tons of hawks, and I took it for granted, and sort of, oh, this happens everywhere. And I didn't spend enough time kind of just taking it all in. I always thought there were other places that were better, like, oh, go down to Lake Erie or elsewhere. And it's like, you know what? I could have just sat here watching this and seen a lot of cool stuff. But there you go. You're always chasing after the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow rather than just look at the rainbow.
Dude, I just noticed that on you typed in a different name on your Zencaster
yeah, that's right.
profile here.
Took you a while.
It does not say Alvaro. It says
no, it doesn't.
Stringy.
Stringy McStringer.
I was like, man, yeah, is he trying to tell me something?
Yeah, no. Did come up the other day in conversation. Obviously, no names will be mentioned, but how the psychology of birding is such that the concept of the stringer, that the person who, well, actually, person or computer, because Merlin, now we can.
Merlin,
sort of like
Merlin can get a little stringy
stringer
too.
Yeah, auto stringer.
Yeah, auto string.
Yeah, it's like digital stringer. It's essentially the concept of somebody who makes up birds or sees something and without actually making it up, just misidentifies it.
Over eagerness. Is what I usually. Yeah.
And then how that is a real thing in birding, because we do this kind of like as we trust people, and sometimes you feel like the trust is a little broken or there's a little something wobbly there.
Yeah, people abuse it sometimes. Yes.
Yeah, and because it's the thing that somebody who's not a birder always asks. Well, okay, so you guys go see these birds. Sometimes they're rare. Well, how do you prove it? It's like. And that's an interesting question, because sometimes there is proof, sometimes there isn't. And sometimes there's like really poor proof and people go with something that is less likely. Oh, well, But anyways, I just thought I'd put that up there, and it took you a while to notice.
Stringy. All of a sudden I was like, what's this? What's going on here?
Yeah. Stringy says.
Yeah, I would encourage folks that are interested in the subject of stringers. I wrote a piece called On Stringing for the American Birding Association blog some years ago. The blog lives on, I think there's not really new contributions to the blog these days, if I remember right. But On Stringing ABA blog it's still Googleable. And I kind of wrote a little treatise on this topic because
you're an expert at stringing,
I think I'm good at identifying stringers.
Look at you!
Yeah, I think so. I don't really know but I think I'm good at it. But
I had a come to Jesus moment with stringing. Did you ever like your own personal stringing as a maybe eager young birder?
Oh, sure. Yeah, definitely. Getting started, it's very, very. I think that is a vulnerable time for us birders when you all of a sudden you just just enough to be dangerous.
Yeah. And I remember being with my friend birding. We were teenagers. We were finding cool things, and we were starting to sort of kind of really know our stuff. And we might have even had like a really bad scope or something. And then we saw this sparrow in the fall, and it was like a weird looking sparrow. It just was not right. And we said, that's a Cassin sparrow. This is in Ontario, where there had been some records of Cassin sparrow, but we're not quite sure. And we were good enough in the field at the time that people were like kind of, we bought it and they bought it. Then later, as I got more, understood how things work in juvenile sparrows and misidentification, I was like, we didn't see a Cassin sparrow. There's no way. But we believed it.
Right.
We had no proof, and others believed it. And I felt kind of like ashamed that others had thought, we were just eager. We were not making anything up. We did see something really weird, and we made notes and so on. And it's probably a juvenile, who knows, chipping sparrow.
Juvenile sparrows, if anything, can be pretty tricky.
Yeah, and we, so that's when I thought, there's no pleasure in it's sort of an identification that's not quite there, or believing something that isn't, really solid. And my pleasure started being about kind of really trying to get things right. So it's funny that some people don't get that. They just sort of keep going with sometimes not quite all the information, and you identify it nonetheless. But
yeah. Well, there's always always, I feel like this sort of like haves versus have-nots in anything, right? And so there's some people enjoy being like, I have this, you don't. There's sort of that Schadenfreude aspect of some of us humans. But I think overall, birding is such a shared experience that there's not that much reward in reporting something that you kind of know wasn't really there. Like if you can, it's fun to see something really awesome, regardless of whether you're by yourself or with other birders. It's always like, that's one of the kind of purest elements of birding, is the element of discovery, and being surprised by birds. But if you can't prove that you saw it and nobody else was with you to share it, it's generally not as pleasurable. And also, I think, birders, one of the things we are good at as a group, as a whole, as individuals, is identifying patterns. And this is not limited to patterns of bird behavior, but also human behavior. And people that are a little sloppy with their birding, over time, that can become quite clear at times.
I see a full Stringer episode, but how would we do it without offending?
Yeah, I think we probably touched just the surface of this enough that we can step away and move on to another subject.
Let's move on.
I did want to like do a little update on the yard list here, Al.
Oh yeah.
Because man, when Kristen and I got this place, we moved in, a little less than a year ago. I was like, we're not going to have many breeding birds around here. There's not going to be much breeding here. There might be some interesting stuff wintering around here, but the migration seasons here should be pretty good. I thought this could be good, And in May, I had COVID for a bunch of it, and it was like east winds the whole time, and it was a pretty lackluster spring, and I wasn't even able to bird a good chunk of it, and was also traveling for some of it as well. So we really didn't see much here. But we had a nice stack of cold fronts, good days of fall migration. And I thought, all right, I'm going to get up and out tomorrow morning at dawn and just see if anything goes over the yard here. Maybe I'll see a couple warblers. And I hit triple digits of warblers 2 days in a row. And, I couldn't identify a lot of them. But like I had over 100 individual warblers go over. And one day I had like double-digit species. And it was sort of kind of the spray and pray with the camera. You see these things, little birds rocketing over, and you just try to shoot and hope that you get something identifiable, because a lot of them, they're moving too fast and too far to really do much with them at the moment. But looking at photographs later, you can pick them apart and see what you got. And
hold on.
Yeah.
If you didn't identify it in the field, can you count it for your yard list?
Yes. I'm going to give you an unequivocal yes.
Okay.
I don't actually know the answer to that, but yeah.
Just check.
But
it's your list. It's your yard.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the way I'm doing it. I don't know if I'm doing it right, but this is the way I'm doing it. I was there. I photographed these birds. I knew they could be something, which is why I was trying to photograph them, right? Even if I couldn't tell in the moment. But yeah, like highlight so far was one bird that, I took a series of maybe 12 photos of it while it was visible. And I was like, first one I looked at, I was like, this looks kind of like a Connecticut warbler. I was like, but can't really be sure.
Impossible.
Yeah, couldn't be. And then I look at the next photo, and I was like, this looks like a Connecticut warbler, And I look at 5, 6, 8 more photos. I'm like, good Lord, sweet mother of Jesus, great Odin's raven. This is a Connecticut warbler,
Yeah.
And it was, and I was
Right.
like, I was just like, my head exploded. I was like, so excited, so cool.
By the grace of Mother Carey's chickens. Is that Connecticut warbler? People are going, what are Mother Carey's chickens? You guys look that up. I'll leave it at that.
Sweet Mother Carey's chicken. Yeah. Yeah. And so that was awesome. Next day I went out, I had some good warblers, and also had not one, but 2 flyby red-headed woodpeckers. Good bird up this way. Yeah. Yeah. And one was a juve and one was an adult. That was pretty awesome. So, the yard listing thing is kind of taken off a bit, man. Pretty jazzed about it.
Yeah.
Gonna miss a couple good days here the next couple days. Like tonight and tomorrow night both look like pretty epic migration nights right before the weather gets really nasty. And as chance has it, we're heading down to Cape May later today for 2 nights. And so I will miss some good yard birding, but I should be in a pretty good place for migration for the next couple days. I'm very excited about that. Haven't been at Cape May for a really good fall day in a while, so it should be pretty kick-ass.
I've heard this Cape May place is good for migration. I've heard.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah.
Not too bad. Yeah. Reasonable. So yeah.
Yeah. Wow, man. George. And yeah, we don't have Molly here today to tell us, what's going on in her patch in terms of migration. But, there's a certain, she lives in really great overall habitat, with a lot of wildlife. But you live in an suburban, urban area, which sometimes are actually better for really picking out when migration's happening, because it's on or off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The beauty of the yard list, sometimes it's like, okay, 2 or 3 yellow warblers are in the backyard. That's different. Well, if you're in actually really good habitat, like,
you would never notice
Molly's place, you might not notice that there's an uptick. Obviously you notice something, but this flyby situation sounds fantastic. As just a migrant robin just went over. Look at that.
Nice.
So yeah, that's cool. Congratulations. Now you're going to be chasing that day forever. Maybe next year won't happen. You'll be like, no. And then, we chase those great days forever as birders, that great pelagic, that great whatever.
Yeah. Well, in a way it's kind of given me, like, now I feel like the sky's the limit here, like I've seen just enough good stuff, and on the right conditions, there's good morning flight here, at least by kind of inland Philadelphia standards. This is a reasonably good area to keep hoping for that. And as you're talking about, as kind of middle fall approaches here, I just had my first ruby crowns the other day. Red-breasted nuthatches have been moving through for a while. Probably start to see some white breasts, I bet. But like finches are coming, sparrows are coming, different hawks are coming. The accipiters and falcons are heating up, and then later in the year can hope for some eagle and other kinds of buteo movement. So I feel like I'm pretty excited for the next month or so before we go to Antarctica. Then I'm obviously going to miss a chunk of yard birding then, but for good cause.
Right.
I'm excited about. I feel like anything could go over. Fork-tailed flycatcher, black swift. Bring it on, bring it on.
You said the finches are coming, and right when you said that, 2 pine siskins landed outside here.
I told you, man. I told you they were coming.
So they were coming.
Yeah.
You predicted it. And well, migration events, chasing a day. We were just talking earlier about storms.
Yeah.
And and kind of a I think it's going to be tragically awful hurricane is happening now, Hurricane Ian.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before, that we are interested in the birds that show up in these storm systems, but we're not unaware of the human suffering that this causes, and we don't want to make it seem like we enjoy. Yeah, you know what I mean. It's
I remember
birds do move.
Yeah, and I remember during Hurricane Isabel, which is one of the things that came up recently in my social media feed. I think it was Brian Patterson posted. It's been 19 years since Hurricane Isabel, which was the first storm where I really went into it hoping to see some birds. But I mean, it inflicted untold damage in Virginia, in particular, and North Carolina. But I remember, I think it was Scott Weidensaul said something. Was at the time was watching birders getting really excited about the birds that they might see, in their patches that would normally otherwise never, ever, ever be there. And he said at first he was sort of like frustrated by the glee of, people were taking in this event, thinking, geez, are you not aware of the people losing their homes or maybe even in some cases their lives? And he said, I realized after a while that people are really just taking meteorological lemons and kind of making ornithological lemonade. And I think that's a fair way to look at it. Is these storms do actually teach us a fair amount about what birds deal with and how they behave. So yeah, it's a mixed bag, right? And if you do live near the coast or on the coast or near a in the path of one of these storms, it can be pretty darn terrifying. And I know you and I both know some friends that are going to be affected by Ian, and we just hope that they come through it okay.
Yeah, and Ian just knocked out power for all of Cuba. Really bad. I mean, really bad. Obviously, I was just thinking, people over there are used to hardship, but it's just like more and more.
It seems like it's been stacked upon them lately.
Yeah, and it's a place where I know a lot of people there, and they're affected directly by this. But on the other hand, these storms, like what they show us or what they come up with in terms of depositing birds, sometimes almost like a slice of migration in terms of the land birds, and then also a sweep, like a squeegeeing effect of the seabirds onto land. So there's almost two things that go on at times that teach us a lot about what is out there, and what isn't.
Yeah, exactly. We talked a little bit with Marshall about that, or quite a bit actually, about that Arctic Tern event, and one of these this incredible storm news that just came in was these guys up in Cape Breton, right in Nova Scotia. I mean, did you get a look at that list of birds? It's just incredible.
Yeah. So yeah, crazy. So that to put it in perspective, Cape Breton is sort of the northeast section island in Nova Scotia, sort of on halfway between the main part of the province and Newfoundland. And it's got these huge lakes in the middle. Almost, they look like they were probably connected to the ocean at one time. Glacial, seems like lakes, almost like the Finger Lakes or the lochs in Scotland, stuck in the middle of this huge island. And that's where these people went birding, right in there. Not the coast. They called it. They thought these birds are going to get deposited in inland waterway, and they're going to have to move out of there after the storm sort of subsides. And boy, did they move, George. Boy, did those birds move.
Yeah. It looks like it was Nathan Hood and another birder. I'm not sure who, but man, like, just to give folks a sense of some of the stuff that was seen. They had 260 red phalaropes, 6 parasitic Jaegers, 2 long-tailed Jaegers, 25 kittiwakes, 5 Sabin's gulls, a couple sooty terns, a bridled tern, 2 white-tailed tropic birds, a white-faced storm petrel, 4,000 Leach's storm petrels. And one of the first birds of the day that they had was a Trinidad petrel. And I mean, I've had some pretty amazing storm experiences, but I think this would be a doozy, man. I can't imagine these guys must have been out of their minds.
The Trindaggi petrel. Trindaggi. Yeah, Trindaggi.
Yeah, I have no idea how to say that.
We have to get somebody from Brazil to tell us how to pronounce that. You missed the one great blue heron. Hey, come on.
Oh, did I? Yeah.
40
I
starlings.
have to say, the 2 blue-winged teal as well. I forgot to mention them. Yeah.
So, but there's something in that too, right? I mean, I'm thinking, so they have 8 Jaegers, 2 species. Why were there no Pomeranians? Are they not there at that time? There were, a bunch of shorebirds, but just one black-bellied plover. So some of these birds seem to be able to either not get caught up in this, or they die, right? There's no warblers in this list, of course. It's just too intense. There's no chipping sparrows or something like that. Yet it's mostly, in this case, was seabirds, and they did it exactly to try to find seabirds, going to a waterway, right, and watching things move from one place to another. But 4,000 leeches and white-faced.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah, as you say, a long way for some of these birds to go. Just the volume of leech is impressive. But it is curious. It made me, as you're talking about there, kind of mentioning how these storms affect not just seabirds, which is kind of what we often think of as seabirds and shorebirds, right? Like those are the things that are kind of more obviously displaced. But it took me back to Hurricane Irene, which I think was 2011, if I remember right, came through here. And it was a great day of birding for me personally. It's actually kind of the day that really kickstarted me into Philadelphia birding. Even though I'd lived here my whole life, I was like, couldn't really go anywhere. And I went down to the river, Delaware River. I was like, I'll just see what I see, and I had 8 species of terns, which for this inland site is, usually you get 1, maybe 2 tern species in a day. To have 8, I had sooties, I had a whole bunch of black terns. Royal tern is rare. And the best was a sandwich tern, which I think was the first time that had ever been reported in Pennsylvania. So that was a great day. Down at Cape May, they really had a heck of a day. And one of the things they had there, sort of a non-pelagic, non-shorebird, was this. They had a black swift go over, which was pretty crazy, right? And people don't necessarily think about those birds. Obviously, they're affected. They're aerialists. I think the same day, Ned Brinkley reported a brown-chested martin from Cape Charles, Virginia. But yeah, I mean, and of course, one of the big questions with the swift was a lot of people just kind of assumed it was from Western North America, not realizing that as likely as anything would be the, a black swift of the Caribbean population. Which, given the track of the storm, that would seem to be a lot more likely.
Yeah, no, it does seem more likely, and I think those black swifts in the Caribbean might be migratory, yet it's not confirmed yet. And then that would make it more likely. I think, if you think of them as resident, and then you think, oh, what's less possible that somebody's going to get kind of caught up in anything and move downhill, downwind, But those might be migratory. We know so little about things like swifts.
Yeah,
still,
it's true. They all look alike.
I got to say that this might be a rumor. I don't know some of the Ontario birders and so forth, but I think the folks that saw this at Cape Breton actually went to find this from Ontario. They actually drove out there to go and see this, and they hit it correctly. I mean, If that's the case, that is some amazing birding kind of premonition as to go and see an event that might be once in a lifetime. And
like, how
and
long a
have
drive would that be? Like, it's got to be a long, long ass drive.
Oh yeah. I mean, Canada is pretty big, and even though it looks like, oh, this is a small chunk of Canada, yeah, it's got to be like a 20-hour plus, right? Drive.
I was going to say maybe close to a day or something, right?
Yeah. Although, in Canada, you can go way faster because it's in kilometers.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Interesting, Stringy McStringer. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
You go 160. Look at that. Woo, that's fast.
Wow. Man, 160. Jeez.
And so hopefully, gosh, anybody who's listening to this when it comes out, if you were going through Ian and thinking that we're somehow getting some enjoyment from the tragic aspect of the storm, no, that's not it. It's what these events can teach us and the interesting things that can happen sort of surrounding the events. But hopefully everybody's safe and doing well after Ian. I mean, it's just about to hit now, as far as I know, like in the next few hours or hour.
It looks like a very angry storm. So just hope everybody does okay.
Yeah. And, with respect to your thought of Black Swift, and we don't know a lot, and we also can't tell the Black Swifts from the Caribbean from the ones in the West. There's a interesting bird that showed up in the UK that I think is worth talking about. You know the one I'm talking about there, George?
Is this the Nighthawk?
The Nighthawk.
Uh-huh.
And there's a common Nighthawk. People raced out to see this thing. It's like in the middle of, I mean, if you can picture where London is and Bristol, south end of the country in England, and right between, kind of in the middle of nowhere, and somebody's back fence just sitting, sleeping there lengthwise on the fence, just like Nighthawks do. And I gather that enough people got the word that there was a huge twitch to go see this Nighthawk, and they watched it till the very end of the day, and it started yawning and then just took off and flew off to the south, never to be seen again.
So where the heck is that thing going to end up? Jeez.
Right. The town, I guess, is called Hallett Close Wantage. It's a good name. That's probably like the village, or in any case. So you got a common Nighthawk out there, and they went through the ID. It's not a lesser Nighthawk, but I'm not sure they're considering Antillean Nighthawk, which is not that insane. It's actually more likely than a lesser Nighthawk.
Oh yeah.
But we don't know enough about them.
Right.
And I think the UK birders are assuming that it is so far removed from the possibility that it shouldn't be considered, in a vagrant record like this. But the reality is that Antillean Nighthawks migrate probably real long distance, and we don't know that clearly because they're so similar to common Nighthawks that unless they're calling, we don't know that they're there.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, there was one that was detected in Argentina that was calling and recorded, and I think there were a couple of them detected. And then suddenly it was like, oh my God, they're flying as far south as Argentina. Wow. And then you realize it's a long distance migrant.
Yeah, that's wild. I had not heard about that. That's amazing.
And then you put together the fact that they've been seen as vagrants to the north and in Bermuda.
Yeah.
And I guess there's
in North Carolina.
There's North Carolina.
I think there are at least 2 North Carolina Outer Banks records of birds in like early summer, bounding around, calling, giving the pitty pit pit, pitty pit pit.
Yeah. Yeah, what's the Cuban name for it? Querequete, I think it is.
Hmm.
Right? Yeah, this just based on the voice. And if it's not calling, we really don't know how to identify those things, do we?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously?
And they really don't vocalize this time of year much. Like even just, normal calls, like as far as I can tell, we have actually had some decent little flights of common nighthawks, presumed common nighthawks, Alvaro, over our
Yeah.
over the yard here. We had almost 100 one night, but we didn't hear a single one. Like none of them are
Yeah.
vocalizing. So
So I mean that's a great point. Like, so let's say that every year there's Antilles nighthawks that show up in the north, just in the same way that cave swallow does, an unusual northern movement in the fall. You could have an Antilles nighthawk every so often flying through Cape May, not calling, and nobody would know. So the
yeah,
fact that we don't know that they're there doesn't mean they're not there. Yes,
right,
it's very different from like a fork-tailed flycatcher flying over your yard, like you predicted earlier, because you would know what that is. But
sure,
with this,
pretty
you don't
distinctive. Yeah,
know. So the fact that somebody might say, "Well, it's so unlikely to end up in the UK because they really don't move that much," it's like, well, we actually the data is that they do move quite a bit, but there's very little data so far.
right. If
So
they're
I
not
would
calling
say
you,
to
you're not
the
going to know. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know, UK birders, count it if you want.
Oh wow, Alvaro, you're playing the spoiler. Oh man.
Oh man, I,
Yeah.
I actually, what I'm doing is there's nobody who's so keen on ID as UK birders and the
Hmm.
Dutch. You know, and if anybody is going to figure out how to identify our birds, it's going to be UK birders. So I put that out there. I put that out there as a challenge to them. They've got
Nice.
great photos, and go and do this for us, guys,
Yeah.
gals.
Figure it out. Figure it
Figure
out.
it out because we want to know. I'm done with this misidentified or non-identified nighthawk thing.
Yeah. No, you do wonder. I mean, it's a great point that these things. We've talked before about crypto vagrants, and swifts. For all we know, there's swifts in the genus Chitura or Cypseloides from South America that every now and then, you know, end up way up north here. And how would you ever know? How would you ever know
Right.
unless it really started vocalizing a lot? And even then, it could be pretty tricky.
So I got this new website up where I can sell you some crypto vagrants. Their
Oh,
value's going up,
yeah.
skyrocketing. Crypto
Get some. You
vagrants.
got some Swift coin for everybody.
Swift coin. Yeah, I've got some
Yeah,
Swift coin. Yeah, yeah.
nice.
Swift coin and yeah, yeah. Nighthawk bucks.
Nice. Yeah, those are available on Birding Your Best Life, I assume. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't only talk identification and birds there, but crypto vagrants. There,
Nice. Walked
I
right into
think
that. Didn't see that coming.
I know. I didn't. That's why I'm here. The 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 thought that okay, so these are birds that you can't identify. We were at that stage earlier, decades ago with dowitchers and peeps
Yeah.
until somebody figured out what to look for and how reliable certain features were. And now people are picking out, juvenile little stint, from, the shape of the length of the primaries and the shape of the bill and a few plumage features and stuff. And it seems impossible, but people are doing it. So I think the Nighthawks, the Swifts, everything will be determined eventually. We just need the right eyes to see it in a different way and sort out how to do this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, speaking of stuff that might be kind of flying under the radar a little bit, Al, um, I thought we might chat a little bit about an email we got from a listener, Nick Ampersey, who's out in California. And he mentioned that he was on a bike ride. I'm not exactly sure where he was, but he was
California
in.
birders, very healthy, always doing exercise. Just point that out.
Mhm.
Bike ride.
Yeah. They're very good at virtue signaling as well. Excellent at virtue signaling.
Yes, that actually we excel at. It's like who's got the most electric cars? Well,
yeah. Well, Nick was biking and said it's like 11 in the morning, and he was in the mountains there. I assume it was kind of somewhere near Sequoia National Park. He said he does some work around there, and that he spotted a flock of birds flying crow-like, and that he could see they were kind of pink underneath, and he counted about 30 individuals fly by, and he was like, "Oh man, these are Lewis's woodpeckers, migrating." And then he said he just decided to kind of hold a vigil there a little bit and kept counting for the next almost an hour, and he ended up counting over 1,100 Lewis's woodpeckers, which to me is just like I think I've been to a nesting colony where there was like a dozen birds or something, and I thought that was awesome. Seeing like over 1,000 Lewis's woodpeckers in an hour, that would be really, really cool. That is something I would absolutely just die to see. That'd be amazing.
I remember once being in Oregon on one of the Oregon tours and watching like a stream of, it wasn't 30s, but it was like, 2 here, 2 more, 3 more, and they're all going the same direction, very calm morning conditions, all flying south. And I know you wondered, like, is this kind of thing known? It actually is known, and it's been written about like way back, with thousands of Lewis's woodpeckers streaming through mountain migration sort of routes, but not annually. Like some years it happens more so than others, and it obviously that's big. So I think we're getting the signal that this year is a big Lewis's woodpecker year. They're funneling out of their northern places, and I think it depends on acorn crops, and there was even an acorn woodpecker here that was out of range too. That showed up. That makes me wonder if there's sort of a multi-woodpecker move going on relating to oaks. But it is a known thing that this happens, and I would actually say to you, if you look up numbers of red-headed woodpeckers in the East, there have been some substantial migrations historically. I think I want to say Tawas Point, Michigan, had like a day when there were like hundreds and hundreds of red-headed woodpeckers, which is closest relative to Lewis's, and also somewhat acorn oriented at times, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, they're kind of, I can think of them as the Eastern parallel.
Yeah. So what's your prediction? One over the yard?
Yes.
George?
Well, I was thinking, I texted Tom and Doug about this. I was like, man, look at this. This is awesome. And Tom, both you and Tom pointed me in the direction of some sources that showed that these flights are known about. There was, I think both of you pointed towards different incidents of known flights from like early 1900s, talking about thousands of birds. But doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of these documented that I can tell, but at least a few. And it probably, I would imagine the areas they're migrating through, that this could go undetected, which is kind of what, how we start off talking about this, is because it seems like the kind of thing that could fly under the radar. But yeah, I was like, you know what? If it is a flight year, maybe we'll get one out east here someplace. How awesome would that be? I mean, as vagrants go, that would be such a cool bird. I mean, it's an unusual color pattern, and it's such a fantastic bird. It's. I know that there are just a few records in the East. I remember one from Luckett's, Virginia. I think it was like 93 or something, 92. And I think there's one or two others in the East, like east of the Appalachians. Not many, though. But it might be a couple more than that.
There's at least, I mean, there was an Ontario record that was in the last 30 years or so. There's probably been others historically too. Yeah. Basically everything's been in Ontario, by the way.
Well, Southern Ontario, man. I mean, it's tough to beat that for, being a funnel for crazy vagrants.
Yeah, it actually looks like a funnel, doesn't it? If you
Yeah.
this big V, funnel shaped thing between all the Great Lakes.
Yeah. So it does look like there's a few more Lewises than I was aware of. I'm looking in eBird here, but still, would be something else. Yeah, it looks like we're more in like the couple dozen records, maybe a dozen records east of the Appalachians.
If anybody's out, lives in the Sierra in California, be on the lookout. And these are diurnal migrants, so just like red-headed woodpeckers, they go out, fly. Well, although redheads will fly at night, so don't but you can see them in the day, which is kind of cool. Diurnal migrants are always interesting in that they're out going over, when we are like a lot of finches, pipits, hornlarks, and things.
Lewis's would be the perfect. Lewis would be the perfect bird to pick up as a flyby at a hawk watch, and it looks like they're actually the one lone Pennsylvania record was at the Allegheny Front Hawk Watch, October 20th, 2002, as one example.
And be aware, if you don't know Lewis's woodpecker, that if you go, oh, there's a funny looking crow, that's it. Because they don't undulate like classic woodpeckers. They just sort of go straight and they have a slow wing beat. And you're like, oh, that looks like a crow there with a pink belly. Hold on.
Yeah, one of the things that's always bothered me a little bit taxonomically is that genus Melanerpes, there's two distinct types, right?
Oh yeah.
There's the red-bellied Gila, Hoffman's red-crowned type. That there's tons of those. It used to be Centurus
or whatever.
Yeah. They got the black and white barred back, and usually they're uniform color below, whether it's kind of tan or gray, and with some red on the crown and in the vent. Golden fronted is in that group as well. And they used to be, those were all in the genus Centurus. And then I guess they got thrown, I don't know when it happened, but I guess they got thrown in with the Melanerpes, which I think of like the true Melanerpes as redheaded, Lewis's, acorn, Puerto Rican, those are really cool, showy, awesome woodpeckers. Right. And I would love, I don't know anything about genetics, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend I do. But to me, it just seems like that is a very natural divide. I mean, once you get down into like South America, there's some that kind of look similar, like they've squished them together, and then it gets a little more complicated. But
there is now an ointment for Melanerpes, but beside the point.
little penicillin will clear that right up.
Right. Yeah. So I think you're right. I think this is I don't want to say misapplication, but of the concept of the genus. The genus is actually subjective, right? You can, we could have all the great apes be in one genus if we wanted to, because they're all, but we don't, because we choose certain features to sort of set them apart. And I think that's a good one that could be divided up into two pretty clearly, and we would have more information. The genus would tell us more. We would say, oh, Centurus are the barred ones, and they look kind of like, golden fronted, red-bellied, while the other ones are the wackadoodle ones that have a lot of solid colors, right? And often just are the real wow birds.
And they fly differently. Like they those the real Melanerpes, the redheadeds, the Lewis, they do a lot more fly catching. They fly like small crows or jays. Whereas the Centurus ones, they fly like woodpeckers. They move. They're much more directed. They're much more undulating in their flight. They really are different.
No, yeah, I agree. I have not looked at the details. Maybe there's some link that suggests they should all be lumped, but it's because it's subjective. You could always sort of argue the fact that those would be separate. I think the same thing with storm petrels. They all got lumped into this Hydrobades genus, all of the northern storm petrels, huge diversity of birds. I think that's incorrect, that they should be separated into different genera, but not based on plumage, other features that actually work, and the genetic kind of structure. I mean, I would actually suggest a bandrum storm petrel not only is multiple species, it's its own genus of species.
I remember that being suggested, and kind of was expecting to see it move in that direction.
But yeah, Lewis's woodpecker, everybody be on the lookout. And if we had to rename that one, crow woodpecker would be a good one.
Crow-like
pink-bellied woodpecker.
Yeah. Rosy-bellied
woodpecker.
Yeah.
Rosy-bellied. Yeah.
Just rosy woodpecker.
Rosita's woodpecker. No,
there
that's
you go.
The bunting. Oh yeah, we can't name it after a person. Forgot. Yeah. What else is happening?
Oh, geez, man. Yeah, bunch of Hillstar stuff. I'm not only heading for Cape May for a couple days of R&R and catching up with friends and stuff, but next week I'm going down to Cape Charles, Virginia, where I'll see some friends as well, but meeting up with some birders to do about 4 days of birding, and looking forward to that. And yeah, I've got, we just posted, check it out on Hillstar Nature social media if you get a chance, our latest kind of newsletter with the latest and greatest offerings. And we have a bunch of tours where there's just a couple spots left. So I would encourage folks to take a look at that, and including a Columbia trip in January to the Santa Martas and some other stuff too. But yeah, you're heading out of town pretty soon, right?
Yeah, a Chile tour, the sort of the big full all over the country tour, and Saturday pelagic. Only after this one, we only have 4 more pelagics. 2 of them will be while I'm away, so we'll kind of run by the local experienced team here. The ocean, man, this. I'll just quickly sort of say that it's just gotten really interesting in this last week. Even though we're in a cold water year, the La Nina situation, it suddenly warmed up. Tuna have arrived. Northern California has Dorado, mahi-mahi, big-eye tuna, which is really weird. They're catching bluefin and yellowfin tuna, or seeing them in our latitude, which is 3rd year in a row we've had bluefin tuna. Before this, it wasn't known. And we, on the Sunday pelagic, Mark, one of the people that comes out, birds, who's actually a expert on seabirds and conservation of island faunas, Mark Razon, who's he's written
I know the name. I've never met him, but
he told me this is the weirdest thing. He told us multiples, I really had a good feeling about today because I had this weird dream. And we were talking about premonitions.
Mm-hmm.
A weird dream that I was at the bottom of the ocean, and I was looking up and I could see this sea turtle. And he said, so I'm thinking we're going to see like a leatherback, which is our sea turtle here that we see maybe once a year. It's actually still, they're here, but they're pretty hard to find. So he has this premonition of a sea turtle. We're coming back. He spots a sea turtle.
Mm.
I thought it wasn't. I thought it was something floating like a buoy, because I could see it wasn't a leatherback, and that's all we get here. That's all we get. Then it pokes its head up and it's like, that's a proper tropical sea turtle,
Oh, wow.
And we photograph it, and it turned out to be my lifer olive ridley turtle.
Oh, man. That's
here.
It's one of those ones I've only heard about.
I know.
That's crazy.
And the story with Mark, just like premonition, he
willed it to happen.
I know. I thought that was the best. And now, yeah. Woo. So we're going on Saturday and wondering what's going to happen if we see some other cool warm water things. We're hoping for Least storm petrel. That's the one we're hoping for.
Oh, it's a bird I'd love to get a good photograph of. I've really only seen them once, and we saw thousands that day. But yeah, that's such a cool little tiny seabird.
Yeah, and we have never seen one on our trips here in Half Moon Bay, but this is the year.
Yeah, you're just a little too far north up there. Yeah, too far north, and because usually water's too cold, right? That's the big issue. Yeah,
exactly. So there we go, and hopefully we'll report back with some cool stuff, especially if we record in a few days.
Yeah. Look forward to hearing about that. Yeah, excellent.
I'm glad to know that Hillstar's doing well. Your trips are happening, and I mean, some of you folks don't realize that George just started Hillstar right before we started this podcast, and kind of all this change all at once, and there was a certain level of trepidation, and I knew George had this. He
thanks,
had it.
Man.
He had ready.
Thanks.
He was ready to move to the next stage. Whatever that is.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. And it's been a really fun, rewarding road. We're building a good team, and I'm excited about where it's headed. So it's been great. Hopefully we'll do a little better with the pelagics, man, because, man, we got weathered out again on one that was supposed to go last weekend. Tropical storms put an end to that. So now we're looking ahead to our winter pelagic schedule. My buddy and colleague Zach Baer here at Hillstar.
Zach.
Yeah, he's kind of taken that on and is organizing pelagics.
Zach used to live here, and he used to come out spotting with us. And also, he makes his own beer.
Wow, I did not know about the beer. I knew he'd done some spotting on trips out there. I didn't actually realize he was living out there. Yeah, he only lives I think a half hour from me. And we've been on the phone a lot lately, probably more than either of us bargained for because of all the trip cancellations. But yeah, he's right now. He is hard at work on our winter pelagic schedule. So the Mid-Atlantic pelagicophiles, stay tuned. We should have some trips to announce probably in the next month or so.
And we're supposed to have a trip tomorrow. We actually had to cancel it. Huge wind, kind of 1 day windstorm coming after a little cold front, and a big swell from an Alaska storm that's coming in, and just it was looking nasty. 9 feet by 9 seconds is what is being predicted, with 20 knot winds or more. So
yeah, you're not burdening that.
No, and before we go, I just want to say that pelagics most of the time go. The weather cancellations this year have been a lot for us because it's been super windy, more so than ever. So we've canceled 4 trips, I think. And if you're coming from out of state, you're making real organization to get yourself in a pelagic, either George's or ours over here. If there is a chance to actually book on more than one, and I'm not trying to just sell you pelagics, I'm trying to tell you the fact that sometimes they don't go. And if your whole reason you're coming out is pelagics or Brian Patterson's, a lot of people go down there in multiple trips, and maybe 2 out of 3 go, or 3 out of 3, and often these trips are sold out. So if you do book them, like over here, and you say, I booked 3 trips, I don't only I already did 2, and the third one I don't need to because I saw everything I wanted to see. Sometimes there's even the chance to actually pass that spot on to somebody on a wait list. Not always, but just keep that in mind. These aren't scheduled trains that leave the station.
Yeah, there's a limited
exactly
number
as expected.
No, I always recommend that as well. We're for some of our winter trips, we're starting to have weather dates scheduled in so that if it doesn't go on a Saturday, then we'll try it on Sunday. But
great.
Certainly for Patterson's trips too. if you're going out of Hatteras, definitely recommend trying to schedule yourself for more than one. And if for all the reasons you state, and also just because you increase your chances of getting something really different,
Yeah.
And every day is so different out at sea. You really don't know what to expect, even from one day to the next. It can be very, very different experience. So good advice, Alvaro. Yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah, I think we got to run, man. We're on the nose of the hour. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. Thanks for the feedback. We really do appreciate that. And Alvaro, have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, and keep those questions coming, and these observations, because it gives us things to talk about. Because between me and George, we have nothing to talk about usually. So. Thank you.
That's right. Yeah. Right on.
Bye-bye,
right on.
everybody.
All right. Cheers, guys.